Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on ESPN 790 AM, brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife and Resources Agency.
Hey, good Saturday morning. Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray. I hope you had your pen and pencil or whatever it might have been to take all that information about where to catch fish, because everywhere you turn around, you'll probably see Ron Wong. This bonus Wong, he's with us. Bill Cooksey, glad to have you aboard out of Jackson, Tennessee, and I know you guys have heard of the two organizations that we might talk about, formerly the Quality Deer Management Association, the National Deer Alliance. But earlier this month, those two organizations came together and formed a new nonprofit organization, and we're really glad to have on Outdoors with Larry Ray, the National Deer Association. And speaking to us right now is Lindsey Thomas Jr. He is the Chief Communications Officer for the National Deer Association. Good morning, Lindsey.
Good morning, Larry. How are y'all?
We are doing great. And let's talk about this, because I know both of the formation of this. What was the basis of this? And tell us how you got involved in it.
Well, I've been here at this organization since it was for 17 years, joined when it was the Quality Deer Management Association.
Yes.
And then about 5 years ago, you may recall, this QDMA helped form the National Deer Alliance.
Yes,
I
remember.
Created it.
Yes.
It came about from a call for an umbrella group to help bring together various deer hunting groups to work for deer. And so we created it. It was out there for maybe 5 years, building a name for itself in the policy arena and working on chronic waste and disease, a lot of other issues. And then this year, just through circumstance, we were looking for a CEO for QDMA. We were talking to Nick Pinizzotto, who was the president and CEO of the National Deer Alliance.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And the idea was proposed. Rather than swapping CEOs, what if we reunited these groups and brought them together and sort of bring the strengths of each together under one roof? And the more we talked about it, the more everybody got excited about the idea and realized it really was an opportunity for synergy and efficiency and greater effectiveness for deer hunters and for the deer resource. Yeah. And so that's it. And it's taken some work, but we have unified. We are now the National Deer Association, and going forward as one team.
Got a new name, new logo, a new vision, I'm assuming, and you're coming along here at a very, how would we put it here, some trying times in our nation as far as COVID, but also chronic wasting disease. And you mentioned that in there. Will you guys be in that loop as we sought to take care of these areas that have CWD? Is that on y'all's agenda too?
Absolutely, Larry. And I'll tell you this, we've already spent the last several weeks in a strategic planning process. At the same time we were trying to figure, things like name and logo and basics, we were already delving deep into who do we want to be and what do we really need to focus on.
Yeah.
That strategic plan ended up with 4 focus areas that will define what we work most on behalf of deer and deer hunters. And one of those 4 is diseases.
Yes.
Now that, of course, primarily will mean CWD, but it may not always. Hemorrhagic disease, and there are others as well. There are other concerns for the health of deer populations, but primarily when we say diseases, I can guarantee you most of that work is going to be dealing with CWD because of the dangerous nature of that and the threat that it really does pose to the future of deer hunting.
And Bill Cooksey, Bill has been involved in conservation and Bill works for a nonprofit organization. Bill, I know there's challenges always for nonprofit, particularly in these times. As you hear Lindsey talk, and can hear the passion in his voice. From your point of view, as a nonprofit yourself, these are not the easiest times, are they, Bill?
Oh, they're brutal. Especially for those nonprofits who their finances are member driven,
yes.
like with banquets and that sort of thing, like a Ducks Unlimited, that sort of thing. It's rough out there, but it's rough in general. I mean, you can't get boots on the ground because of travel restrictions. You can't get together and meet. It's a very, very challenging time in conservation, and that's putting it mildly.
And Lindsey, you hear that? So you guys have formed this plan. Now the next thing to do is try to put it in place in a trying time.
Yeah, Bill's right. It's difficult for every group out there in the nonprofit conservation world. We've had to make changes. I mean, in some ways, we've capitalized on that. COVID has forced us to reboot some of the ways that we do business and raise money. And in some ways, we've looked at that and said, why weren't we doing this all along? Mm-hmm. Why wasn't online fundraising a bigger part of what we were doing?
Yeah.
So we are going to be forced to move away from the old banquet model, and I think it's a good thing. It will allow us to diversify what we're doing, to be more flexible, and therefore, when the next crisis comes along, like COVID, it'll be, we'll be more adaptable to that if we diversify the ways we fundraise. Certainly, it affects the boots on the ground efforts too. This COVID thing is going to be a setback in the fight against CWD because there's less monitoring going on. State agencies are less able to man check stations, and many of the testing requirements have now gone back to voluntary instead of mandatory to help hunters stay healthy themselves. But it's going to be a setback. So in many ways, it's not all going to be. We're not going to be able to turn all of this to the positive for us. But hopefully we'll be coming out of this soon, and we want to be on a financially sound basis and ready to roll.
And so you're reaching out right now because we know I'm a deer hunter. Okay, I love deer hunting. Okay, and I know that deer hunters make up a great population portion of the population, particularly in Tennessee, particularly in other areas, Alabama, and things like that, where deer hunters. So right now, your main goal is to organize all these vast number of hunters to support what you guys are trying to do, right?
Yes, that's right. We all know it that there's a lot of different kinds of wildlife conservation and important wildlife species in North America that we all love, but deer carry all of that on their back.
They do.
They are the backbone of the hunting industry and conservation, because as we know, if you go out there and talk to hunters, the vast majority of them, if you ask them what's the primary species you hunt, it's deer. That doesn't mean that turkeys and elk and grouse and any other species is less important, just that we have to look to deer especially to ensure the future and health of conservation and the funding that goes to our agencies through things like the Pittman-Robertson Act. That's a species. It is the keystone species in wildlife conservation in North America.
So how are you doing this? You have a website. You have things going on right now. How do people get involved in the new organization, the National Deer Association?
Well, through our website, much of the infrastructure will remain the same. As I said before, what we see this as is sort of a moving the different strengths of the two organizations under one roof. So the old network of volunteers and branches in communities, our grassroots network is still there. Our volunteers are still with us. We've worked very hard to maintain communication with them through this transition process, make sure that they are on board and have what they need and know that we need them going forward. But we want to grow that. We want to grow our grassroots efforts and volunteer base. But if you don't know anything about either of the groups that formed us, QDMA or the National Deer Alliance, go to deerassociation.com. That is our new web address, deerassociation.com, and find out what you can do to get involved through our branch network, join as a member and support us. One of the things that we've worked hard on this year in the transition process is being as financially efficient as we possibly can. We've always done that well. We've for several years in a row had a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator which is an independent group that rates charities on how efficiently they spend their members' support and donations. But we want to be stronger than that. There's ways that we can save, that we can spend that money more efficiently and make sure even more of that funding is going into deer conservation. So join as a member, and rest assured that money will be going toward deer conservation, and get involved with us in a number of other ways. But through the website is the best place to start.
Well, I know you folks out there. We know QDMA has been a guest on this show many times as we've talked to a lot of those different people. Lindsey, thank you for being on us with Outdoors with Larry Ray, and give them that website one more time. You got to beat it in their heads this Saturday morning, Lindsey. What is it again?
DeerAssociation.com.
That's it. It's simple as that. And we'll have all this posted on our website, lroutdoors.com also. Lindsey Thomas, thank you, man. Have a great weekend, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
All right. You do the same. Take care.
All right. Let's take a break. Come right back, and now we'll switch to fishing. And Ron will be back with us. Bill, hang on. We'll be right back.